Upside down cake is a single layer cake with a gooey sweet fruit layer at the bottom that's then flipped over to serve with the fruit side up. So let's start with the basics, the classic pineapple upside down cake. And it does begin with the bottom. We start at the bottom and build up. And the first thing we have to make is the sauce that cooks with the fruit. So I'll start by melting a 1/4 cup of butter in a skillet. I'm actually going to bake the whole cake in the skillet. And as the butter melts, I'll add 2/3 of a cup of packed dark brown sugar. You can cook this butter-sugar combination on relatively high heat. You want to wait until it's nice and bubbling and melted. It's interesting, as the butter and sugar are melting and just starting to bubble now, you can actually see that the brown sugar is still gritty. But by adding just 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, it hisses and bubbles up, but it also turns that brown sugar fluid, and that's what creates almost like a caramel sauce that's going to be at the bottom of the cake, ultimately as part of the top of the cake. So now that the brown sugar is nice and smooth, I can add the fruit. So I'll just pull the whole skillet off the heat, and I've got fresh pineapple slices, and just arrange them closely together in the pan. That way the juices start coming out of the pineapple and melding with the brown sugar itself. So I'll just let this sit and cool while I prepare the cake batter. It really is a simple cake batter to make, and this is why it's a good place to start to get a handle on making upside-down cakes. I start with 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk that adds a nice tang and richness without adding a whole lot of fat. I'll use the same measure for 1/3 of a cup of vegetable oil. A teaspoon of vanilla, and then 3 eggs. So I'm stirring all my liquids together. And the dry ingredients, which I need to sift together, include 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour and 3/4 of a cup of sugar. For a little leavening, I'll add first a teaspoon of baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Also, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And for a little accent, just a little grated nutmeg, only just a touch. Give this a little sift, and I add this all at once to the buttermilk base. So as you can see, it's a very simple cake batter to put together. It bakes up a little bit dense so that it can actually hold the baked pineapple and that brown sugar layer that ultimately sits on top. I'll give it a quick little whisk just to work out any lumps you may see. And then the last addition, 1/2 cup of sweetened flaked coconut. I just stir that to blend it in. And now I'm ready to add this on top of the pineapple slices. And you can see that the brown sugar layer has sort of set a little bit. That makes it easier to fill the pan. Now the challenge in adding cake batter to an upside down cake can be adding it in a way so you don't shift or move the fruit layer around. So to do this, I simply use a ladle and gently spoon it over the fruit. That way the fruit doesn't shift, and when you flip your cake right side up, everything is in place and perfect. Now this bakes for 30 to 35 minutes in a 350 oven. So drop that in. And I have one that's been baking for 1/2 hour already. It's ready to come out, but it has to cool for 1/2 hour before I flip it upside down. I love the golden brown that this cake turns when it bakes. Hiding that fruit underneath. There we go. So this cake is the cake I pulled out 1/2 hour ago. And a few tips to turn out your upside down cake easily. First, it'll come out far easier and intact if you let it cool. Then I just run a palette knife around the outside to loosen any edges. Place your cake plate over in one quick move. and then lift the pan up to reveal that beautiful, gooey, fruity top to the cake. I love to serve upside down cake warm, but you can serve it at room temperature at this point.